All right, what's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to tell you guys exactly how you can quite literally guarantee for sure that you will get success, whatever that means to you, whatever goal that immediately comes to mind when I say success, whether it's money, fitness, faith, family, finances, whatever. I'm going to show you in this video exactly how you can make it impossible not to happen. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. And I'm also going to prove to you that your goals don't really mean anything until you understand the concepts that I break down in this video. So this video is not intended at all to show you guys like what I do in my story. I just literally want to jump on and provide you guys pure value. And if you guys get some value out of it, hopefully that I can at least help one person who watches this video. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So how to make success inevitable. The first thing that I want to talk about before I even jump in is, in a lot of cases, us as human beings, we have good weeks and then we have bad weeks, right? So let's just think, for instance, I'm sure this has happened to you at one point where you're like really want to be successful, whether this is making money, whether this is getting in shape, whatever it is for you. And you want it so bad that there are some times where you like literally wake up in the middle of the night and you're like contemplating just waking up and getting to work, or you almost have like a midlife crisis where your life has been shit for a while and you literally just like it builds up so much to the point where one day or one night you're just like, dude, I'm going to change my life around starting tomorrow. Let's make it happen. And then on the flip side as well, I'm sure you've had experiences as well where things are starting to go well for you, but then you fall back into bad habits. You fall back into drugs, alcohol, porn, whatever this is for you. And then you go back down that slippery slope until it builds up to a certain point where you get pissed off again and then you make a change. And I'm going to talk about exactly why that happens in this video. So first thing that we want to do, if we actually want to truly make success inevitable, is we need to first list out exactly where we're at right now and exactly where we want to get to. That is the first step. So the first thing that you want to do, and I break it down into four main things because I think these are the four most important things in life. So we have finances. For you, this can be how much money you have in your bank account, and then also how much money that you're making right now. I would list out both of those. So maybe you have $2,000 in your bank account, or maybe you have 500, or maybe you have $10, whatever this is for you. It might not be pretty, but we need to do this exercise and we need to look the painful beast right in the eye and do it anyways. So if it's $10, you put $10 down. If you're in debt, you put that down. So I would put first here, like where you're at right now in terms of money and cash available. And then I'd also put how much that you're making per month. If you're working some sort of job, or if you're running some sort of online business, or whatever this is for you. So you're going to want to list that out first with point A. That's finances. Then we want to move on to fitness. So this is where you can start to look at things like, what is your weight? What is your body fat percentage? Like what does your physique look like? What would you rate your looks on a scale of 1 to 10? And again, if it's not pretty, you write it anyways. And you look it dead in the eye and you say, let's address the ugly thing right now. And I mean, for me, at one point in my life, all of these have been very ugly. So it happens. So you want to write all that stuff out. This is where I'm at right now. Boom, boom, boom. And you go in depth. Next thing is your faith. So where are you at religion wise? I'm a firm believer that religion is one of the most important things that we have on this earth. It's a moral compass for what is right and what is wrong. And so you want to list like, what is your faith right now in terms of religion? Maybe you're not focused on it at all, or maybe it has been a big part of your life. Whatever that is for you, just write it down in the best of your ability. And then family as well. And so family is kind of like an umbrella term for like your parents, obviously, or like if you have kids, that counts too. But then family is also like any relationships. So maybe you're single right now and you want to get a relationship. So then single would be point A and then relationship would be point B. Or maybe this is also like friends, right? And so basically, before we ever even consider like how we can make success inevitable, we need to get crystal clear on exactly what our life looks like right now. And then the next step is getting crystal clear on exactly what we want our life to look like. And you want to list this all out. So maybe the goal for you and the desired situation for you is you want to make 10K per month and you want to have $30,000 in net savings in your bank account so that you have a 6 month emergency fund. Maybe that's point B. And maybe you're nowhere near that right now in point A. One thing to understand with point B, though, is we don't want to go super far ahead, right? So maybe your goal is eventually you want to be a billionaire or something like that, or a multimillionaire. Well, if you're at zero right now, um, I wouldn't go and list that yet for point B, um, because I personally don't think that you can go from zero to being a multimillionaire in 30 days. If there is a way, you can please tell me. I'd be interested in hearing that. But you want to, like, if you have a very grandiose goal, which is awesome, I think you should have that. Just try and, for the sake of this video, try and break it down into like 5 steps and then start with step 1 in regards to this. So maybe you want to be a multimillionaire, but step 1 is just making your first 10K a month. And then step 2 is getting to 50K per month. And then step 3 is getting to 100K a month, right? And then, you're tracking well to be a multimillionaire. So you're going to want to list out exactly what you want your life to look like here in point B. And if you don't do this, like, none of the stuff that I'll talk about after this will actually even make sense or even work. So you want to list out exactly what this looks like for you. What is the goal? What is your goal in terms of finances, fitness, faith, family, etc.? Where are you at right now? And so then once you do this, do not continue watching this video until you do this. So I'd recommend pausing right now and just like writing this out, or maybe you're starting to think of stuff and it's starting to, move along there. Then what you're going to want to do, and this is very important because this is going to be different for where you're at right now. So your point A, it might be somewhere where you're like semi okay with it right now. I know we talked about earlier, like, that your point A might be very ugly. So there's going to be really like 2 types of people watching this right now. Your point A might be like really ugly, where you have like a lot of pain towards it and it literally like hurts to talk about and it's almost embarrassing to talk about. Or your point A might be like, I mean, it's not great, but it's not like worst case scenario. And that distinguishment is going to be very important because maybe your point A is like your floor right now, where if you go anything under point A, like, it is totally unacceptable and you like literally feel like you're going to die. Or maybe your point A is like, it's not totally at your floor yet, but it's definitely nowhere near like your ceiling. And so the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to build a ceiling and a floor. So like for me, when I was in college, I had a floor, and I'm sure this is going to correlate with you guys well. I had a floor where I was like, dude, I will not go under $1,000 in my bank account. And if it was getting close towards that, I literally felt like I was like dying in the inside, and I'd like literally rather starve than go under that threshold. So basically, you want to take your point A and your point B now. I mean, point B is really easy. You just list this as your ceiling. Like, what are all your goals? That is likely just going to be your ceiling up here. But then you want to get clear on what your floor is. And then like, here's the middle, which is the results that we're going to get on average. So like for me, I'm going to do this in the sake of money and numbers. I'm not only like thinking about money, but it's just the easiest to numerically like break down and see. You could also do this obviously of like body weight or something. That's tangible as well. And you can do that for the other examples here, but I'm just trying to show you guys an example just so you can see what this looks like, right? So maybe let's just say, for example, right now I have 2K right now in my bank account and I'm making like 3K per month. But obviously I have expenses and whatnot. And then my goal was to make 10K per month. Well, then my ceiling up here would be 10K. What I'm getting on average here would be like 3K right here. And then like maybe your floor is like 2K. And so for me, just to give you guys, again, a tangible example, when I was in college, I literally was like, dude, I will not go under like $1,000 in my bank account. So that was like my floor here. And then for some reason, for some weird reason as well, once I would start getting towards like the 3 to 4K mark, where I'm like going well above this standard, like my brain would literally like self-sabotage, and I'd like start spending my money on stupid shit that I didn't need to. And so basically what would happen is my entire life, and we're just talking about like money in the bank account, it would literally like fluctuate like this every couple months, every couple weeks, every couple years, and it would just go up and down like this. And so basically what would happen um, is like I would get really close to having like $1,000 or under $1,000 in my bank account. But then like I literally got so much pain and anger for where I was at right now in my life that it turned essentially into motivation to kick me up and stop spending money on stupid shit. And then I got to the point where I was like in like the 3 to 4K per month, or 3 to 4K in my bank account range. And then like literally I would just like start buying like stupid shoes. I'd like spend money on like video games. I'd like buy a bunch of dumb shit that I really didn't need to. And so then what would happen is we'd start to slowly come back down closer to the $1,000. And then on average here, like I'd have about $2,000 in my bank account, right? So what I want you to do now is, before we proceed, and the next step is going to like totally blow your mind unless you're already familiar with this concept, but what I want you to do is I want you to build out a graph like this. You can like write it down, or you can draw it in like on your computer, or you can draw it in like a journal or something. But I essentially want you to draw a graph kind of like this, where you basically have like 3 lines here. The first line is like your ceiling. So this would be like, what are your goals basically? How much money do you have in your bank account? How much money are you making? What body weight are you? What body fat percentage are you? How much muscle mass do you have? So like you want to do finance goals, fitness goals, faith goals, family goals. And then family breaks down into like, what is your relationship like with your parents? Is it a healthy relationship or is it bad? What is your relationship like with any like significant others? So are you like married? Are you wanting to be in a relationship? Are you wanting to just date and have more dating options? Whatever this is for you, it's going to be different for you, but you essentially want to build like a ceiling here. You want to build a ceiling. And so you can list all this stuff out. Like basically this is like the dream version of you. You have all these characteristics. You're making 10K per month. You have $20,000 in your bank account. You have an incredible relationship with your parents. You've been praying every single day. You have an incredible relationship with a woman that you plan on marrying. Whatever this is for you, it's going to be different, but you basically want to list out exactly what this is. And now you want to get to the ugly part where you want to list out a floor. So basically, like, what is the lowest that you're willing to accept? And you're going to write that all out here. And so before we talk about like why we go in these cycles of self-sabotage, it's very important to define and distinguish a clear floor and a clear ceiling. And then the results that you're getting right now in your life, it'll be like about the average between these two, just in general. So now, hopefully at this point, you've done this. Pause the video if you haven't, but now I'm going to blow your mind a little bit. So here's something super important to understand. People will always tell you, oh, go set like super high goals, and go like set like what is the phrase? Like they say, shoot for the moon and you'll land on the stars, or like some shit like that. But the truth of the matter is, this doesn't really mean anything. So we listed all out, like, what is your dream life? This actually doesn't really mean much of anything. And I'll tell you why in a second. So basically, what would happen if you set your ceiling like even higher? Basically, you're like, oh, instead of saying I want to make 10K per month here, let's just say I want to make 20K per month. Well, what's going to inevitably happen is if your floor doesn't change with that ceiling, you're going to get towards the 20K per month, which is awesome, but you're just going to crash again even harder. So your graph would then look something like this, where you just have like higher peaks, but your low stays the same, and so your average essentially stays the same. And a perfect example of why this happens is look at like gamblers, um, or like people who win the lottery. I'm sure you've heard stories of people who have won the lottery that like literally they made like millions of dollars, and then like 3 years later they're broke again. That is quite literally a perfect example of they have like a super high ceiling and they hit this awesome goal and they like get incredibly lucky, and then before you know it they're back at their floor again. And so now we've taken this graph instead of having like these like it is now they're essentially just experiencing like super high highs and then like even lower lows. And so what ends up happening is it ends up essentially evening out the same. So I say that to say, great job listing out your goals and whatnot. I think that's awesome. And it's going to be important, but it's actually not that important. Because the truth of the matter is, if you want to make success inevitable, we as human beings, we always fall to the level of our standards. Basically, we always fall to the level of whatever we're okay with accepting. We don't get what we want in this life. You can never truly become the like people talk about like becoming the best possible version of yourself. You can't. You become the lowest version of yourself that you're willing to accept. And so in this exercise, what we actually need to do is we need to raise the floor. Because then, once you raise the floor, then you can raise the ceiling with it at the same time. So what do I mean by this? Well, basically, we have a floor here, and we need to raise this floor. And then what will happen is that over time, if we start raising our floor, our graph will look something like this, where you still have highs and lows, but your lows keep getting slightly higher. And if you remember, this line here in the middle represents the average, or like what results on average you're getting inside of your life. As we can see here, this average just keeps getting better and it just keeps going up. Why? Not because we're raising the ceiling, it's because we're raising the floor. So let me talk about why this happens. So you guys remember what I said earlier, where like what ends up happening is like once you start approaching your floor, you start to get like really pissed off. Well, basically this like up and down process, it basically represents our emotions. And so I'm a firm believer that we basically have emotional cycles. And I'm going to like write this out here. We have emotional cycles where we cycle between anger, or let's actually do this instead. Yeah, anger. Anger is a good one. Anger. And then we go to having like motivation or drive. And then we have pride. And then here we have like comfort. And so essentially what happens is we cycle between these emotions through these troughs. So we basically go from anger to motivation to pride to comfort back into anger. And let me try to show you an example. Let's just say right now, let's use the bank account example because I want to do things tangibly. I want to show you numbers. Let's just say you're like, dude, I'm not willing to go under $5,000 in my bank account. Like it literally, like I feel like I'm dying. So what'll happen is like, as you get closer and closer to this 5K, and then like, let's just say your goal is like 10K, having 10K in your bank account. as you get closer and closer to this 5, you will start actually developing a ton of pain and a ton of anger as you get closer and closer. So your money in your bank account is like slowly coming down closer and closer to that 5, and you'll be experiencing a ton of anger here. And then for most people, if you do this in a healthy way, of course, that anger ends up turning into like an incredible amount of motivation where you're like, dude, I don't want to be like this. And so you work your ass off. You start building good habits. You start, being consistent in the gym. You start making money. You start developing good relationships, etc. And so like now we're back on the come up again. And so then once we're like coasting and doing well, then pride starts to kick in. And we're like, dude, I'm the best. Like I'm the shit. And like I have all these good habits. Like things are starting to go well. And you start to ease off the brakes a little bit. You start to not do the same things that you were doing when you were in the motivation stage. Maybe it's only a small percent. Maybe you are still going to the gym, or maybe you're still focused on making money, but you're like putting in like 10% less effort now because things are starting to go well. And then we get comfortable totally, where you're basically experiencing no pain and like life is easy for you. And like, this is what ends up bringing you back into doing bad habits, because you literally feel like you're on top of the world until you start falling back down again, where you're getting closer and closer to this floor. And then anger kicks in again, where you're mad at where you're at. Maybe you've been doing drugs or drinking too much alcohol or whatever bad habits that you've been falling into since you were comfortable. And you're like, you have a awakening one night and you're like, dude, I'm not going to do this. I'm not willing to accept going under $5,000 in my bank account. And then, and then motivation kicks back in. Right. And so this cycle happens over and over again. And guess what? This cycle happens at the highest levels of the world too. So you can take that exact example where we were talking about having like 5K and 10K in your bank account. This happens the same way at 5 million versus 10 million. They experience the exact same things. And this is what people refer to when they say money doesn't buy happiness. Because you're only happy here. Happiness is a byproduct of like just being grateful. Well, I mean, you can be happy in other parts, and I'm going to talk about how to do that in a second. But at this point of the video, we're going to start to get a little bit deep, because this probably isn't going to be what you want to hear, but it's my job to tell you guys what you guys need to hear so that you can actually get results. I'm not going to like sugarcoat anything or like treat you like a fucking baby like some of these other like online gurus would. So basically, again, just to recap, we have anger here that turns into basically like motivation, which is this part of the graph, which then turns into pride, which then turns into comfort, which then turns into anger, which then turns into motivation, etc. And so basically, the biggest indicator of making changes in your life is actually pain. Pain is the number one driver of making a change in your life, or the avoidance of pain. So if you literally go down to the simplest forms of why you're looking to make a certain amount or why your ceilings are the way that they are, it's to either alleviate current pain that you're facing right now, or it's to avoid future pain that could happen if you don't get this. So maybe you have 20 grand in your bank account right now and you're kind of like comfortable. Well, the reason that you want to make more money is because you want to avoid future pain of maybe losing all your money. Or maybe right now you just literally want to get out of pain because you don't have a lot of money right now, and that's why you want to hit your goal. So it can depend on your certain characteristics or your certain where you're at in your life, but basically pain is the number one driver. And so if we look at our current pain level during these phases on a scale of 1 to 10, when you're like angry, I'd say that this is like an 8. And when you're motivated, this is probably like a 7, where you're still experiencing a ton of pain, but you're actually channeling that pain into being productive. And then when you're prideful, like you're still in a little bit of pain, but it's nowhere near as much. So this is like a 3. And then when you're comfortable, like you don't experience any pain because like life is good. And so basically, and we're going to get a little bit dark here, but basically, if you want to make hitting your ceiling inevitable, again, we have to raise the floor. And so what we have to do here is we have to continue this pain, which turns into anger and motivation. We have to continue that right here. And we have to keep our foot on the gas. And so if you can trick your brain into quite literally thinking that your goals, or basically anything below the goals that we listed out here in your ceiling, is just like unacceptable and it's actually extremely painful and that life isn't even good anyways, what'll happen is instead of getting close to your goal and then just like falling back into bad habits and like slipping back down and just going down this up and down roller coaster where it sucks and it's really painful and it's really annoying, you'll be here where, let's just say you're getting really, really close to your goal. You've now tricked your brain into literally being like anything less than the goal is totally painful. And that continues to produce you more anger and more motivation to fuel this graph to keep going up, where you break through and you keep going like this because you have anger and you have motivation and you have pain fueling you. And so the unfortunate point, we're finally here. Pain is the secret weapon that you need to make all of your goals and all of your success inevitable. If you can continue being in a state of pain where it produces you a ton of motivation, you will keep going up. And you will literally keep going up until you get to a certain point where you're comfortable again. And then you go back down a little bit. And then hopefully here, we now develop better standards and you continue elevating your floor and elevating your standards to where your ceiling actually becomes your floor. And then you start going back up again. And this is how you cycle to the top. To where if we have a cycle like this instead of the one that is drawn here, now we have a floor here, but our floor really is like this. Our average is like this. And like the money that you keep making literally keeps increasing every single month. And your ceiling like goes like this as well. Hopefully my drawings aren't too shit for you to not understand what I'm saying. But basically what you want to do is you want to trick your brain into thinking that anything under your current ceiling with the goal exercise that we did, anything under that is totally painful. And then once you start getting really close to your goal, let's just say you're at here on the curve, you actually want to pause and you want to set new standards and new ceilings and new standards as well. So let's just say, I'll just talk about money again because I think it's the easiest to understand. Let's just say you're making $0 right now and you want to start making 10 grand per month. So your floor would be 0 per month and you want to start making 10K per month so that you can do whatever you want that you can do with 10K per month, which isn't much anymore in this current world in the United States, but I know it's awesome still for a lot of people, especially at a young age. So let's just say you're at 0 right now and you want to get to 10K per month. So as you start at 0, like this should really piss you off. And so you basically want to turn that anger into motivation to start the process of making money online, let's just say, or working a job. And then let's just say you're getting like close and like now you're making 5K per month. Instead of being like, oh, I'm doing really well. I'm not at 10K yet, but I'm actually doing really well. I'm getting a lot of progress, where what I just said right there is a perfect definition of pride, where then you would start to fall back down. No. Once you get to 5K per month, you realize that I'm at 5K per month now. I'm going to take my floor and I'm going to make that 5K per month now. where I'm not willing to accept anything under $5,000 per month, even though you just had a record month. I'm not willing to accept anything under 5K per month. And then instead of here crashing back down, the pain cycle continues and you keep going up. Where now your floor is 5K per month, but then also you want to raise your ceiling. Now you have a goal of making 15K per month. And so then your graph starts to look something like this. And then you just want to keep using this to set new floors and new standards to continue making your way to the top with the 4 important aspects of life, which are finances, family, fitness, and faith. And if you can do this, what'll happen is that you'll become so successful that you'll think back to this YouTube video and you'll be like, that was the one. That was the video that changed everything. And so I know what I covered in this video isn't probably what you want to hear, because you're like, dude, I don't want to experience more pain. Why would you want to do that? But where you ultimately want to be in life, and this is what myself I've experienced, but then also a lot of successful people that I know, is they actually like kind of seek discomfort and seek pain. So what do I mean? Well, people talk about this in like self-improvement. They talk about getting into the gym, which is a perfect example of literally seeking pain when you don't have to, and seeking discomfort. But then this also applies to things like cold showers, saunas, ice baths, etc., where you're quite literally like putting yourself through intentional pain. And what can eventually happen, because the brain can adapt very well, and you can actually trick your brain eventually into literally enjoying the feeling of pain. Like you can literally, and if you don't believe me, look up right now, look up on Google, look up Stockholm syndrome, where people have literally convinced their brain into loving their kidnapper. Your brain is very flexible and it's very adaptive, and you can change it. And so basically, eventually, you can get to a point where you trick your brain into actually enjoying pain. And if you can do that, you'll keep experiencing pain, and you'll use that pain to continue motivating yourself to where your graphs, instead of going down this up and down cycle for the rest of your life, where you're just like, you hit a goal for like a week, but then a couple months later, you're back down at the bottom again. Your graphs will look something like this, where you'll go up, you'll still go down a little bit because it's just the nature of what happens. But before you fall all the way back down again, you'll catch yourself, and then you'll start going up again. And then you'll have a new ceiling where you push towards, and then you'll go back down again, but it won't be anywhere near as, and you just like keep doing this. And so then again, if we take the middle, which is the average of what we're getting out of life, you start down here, and it has just continued to keep improving over time. All because you took yourself out of your comfort zone and you experienced more pain intentionally, because you know it's what's going to drive you to be a better human being and to have more impact on this world. And so your floor continued to go up with it, where like quite literally you got to this point here where you're a multimillionaire and you're like, dude, I'm not willing to make any less than $100,000 this month. You can get to that point. Despite what you think, some of the richest people in the world, they literally get furious. Again, anger. They get pissed off to the max that they're doing less than $1 million in a month. That's a perfect example of this. Again, this happens. This graph happens at the highest levels of business. It happens at the highest levels of fitness. And I agree that there's a certain point where you don't necessarily have to keep following this, especially if you're like strictly focused on the money and not on the purpose of what money can do for you if you use it the right way. But I think this cycle is great for all of you guys watching this video, unless you're like already a multimillionaire. And so your standards raise and your ceiling keeps going up. So just like you would expect, you keep setting higher and higher goals, but you're also setting a higher and higher barrier of the lowest that you're willing to accept. again, and I'm going to wrap up shortly here. But the main thing that I want you guys to get out of this video is we as human beings, we do not accomplish our goals. We accomplish the lowest thing that we're willing to accept. And if that is your goal, then you got it right. So your goal, you shouldn't have like, oh, I want to make 10K per month. I want to do this. I want to do that. It should be, I'm not willing to accept anything less than that. Because if you can do that, you'll get it. But yeah, guys, hopefully this was valuable. Again, if you guys want more content like this, and if you guys want real things that'll actually change your perspective and your paradigm, I know for me, I discovered this like 2 years ago, and it completely changed my life. Because for me, like, I was okay just making like 5K per month, but I understood this and I learned this actually from from my mentor at the time that worked with Sam Ovens, who is like, I guess, like the originator of this concept. He has a couple of YouTube videos on this. I learned this, and I started raising my standards, and I put myself through a lot of pain for a couple months, but it completely changed my life, and it got me to where I am today. And so you can continue using this to get to a certain level where you genuinely want to be, to where you can change the world and do what you want with that. So please use this information here, because this will work. If you follow everything that I said in this video, please use this information to do good things in the world, and don't be destructive with it. Don't just like try and make a lot of money so that you can just blow it on like dumb shit. Use this information to put yourself through a lot of pain and become an incredibly virtuous and incredible person. And maybe your goal is to make a lot of money, but with that money, you do awesome things with it. You don't just blow it on dumb shit. So hopefully this was valuable for you guys, though, and you guys take care and have a fantastic rest of your day.